Sujit had to come, is still not on live. Is it? I can't see. Is it a? Yeah, okay, wonderful. Sujit had to come, is still not on. A very good evening to all of you, dear friends. Hearty welcome for the SJ's Wellness Webinars, Series 2 and the Session 2. And today we are very glad that we have our dear friend, Lynn Elsa Georgie, my good friend from my college days. So very, very, very glad to be connected with her after a very long time. So she has achieved so much in this short span of her life. So I shall be introducing to you all this wonderful personality soon. So I hope you all had a lovely week, and I'm sure you're going to have a wonderful evening today, focusing onto some of the strengths that we all are possessing in our personal lives. I hope and wish and pray that our session becomes a very meaningful session, that in some way or the other, at the end of the session, we begin to appreciate our beautiful personality that we have, and begin to appreciate the strengths that we have, and begin to unearth the beautiful qualities and wonderful virtues that we all possess in our life. And no doubt God has blessed us with so much. Our lives are going to be meaningful if we can look into some of these aspects. So that's why our title for today's session is Refocusing on the Strengths. So an alternative to mental health. And the mental health and the emotional health is equally important. Last week we have seen just physical health is important as much as physical health is important. Mental health and emotional health is equally important, So then only we can have a very happy, meaningful, holistic life. So with that little short introduction, and without wasting time, I'm happy to introduce our dear friend, Lynn Elsa. She's a clinical psychologist by training, and she's a psychotherapist by practice, with a great vision to build sustainable, affordable, and accessible quality mental health care. So that is a very deep sense of vision that she has: sustainable, affordable, and accessible quality mental health care for all of us. And with that intention, she finished MPhil in clinical psychology from NIMHANS, one of the prestigious institutions of India in Bangalore. And she is registered with the Rehabilitation Council of India. And she's also currently an international affiliate with the American Psychological Association, as it is known popularly as APA. And she worked as a clinical psychologist at NIMHANS for 2 years. So after which she eventually decided to embark on her own journey, specializing in psychotherapy. With a decades, 10 years of experience as a psychotherapist, she has over 10,000 hours of clinical work. That is inclusive of psychological assessments and therapy to her credit. In addition to this, she has a wide range of experience in working in multiple spaces like hospitals, clinics, colleges, schools, etc., as a research guide, a trainer in teaching and supervising students of psychology, and also supervising the beginner therapists. She believes very much that healing is a journey, and that can occur in two parts. One is by learning to authentically connect to oneself, and by learning to authentically connect to another person. And that is what she tries to integrate into her therapy. So we are extremely happy, such a versatile personality we have amidst us. And I must say that Lynn is very simple, that I have seen her in my student days and interacted with her, very supportive, very sensible and sensitive to the needs of the others. And I'm very happy that with a systematic approach that she's growing and trying to offer this mental and emotional support for others through her very own life. And we wish you all the very best, and thank you very much at the outset for accepting to be part of this wellness webinars, Lynn. And very delighted to have you, and the virtual platform is yours.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much, Bala, for that introduction. In fact, I am feeling grateful and blessed that you thought of me um, to engage with all of your students and to engage with everyone at this point in time. It is just such a blessing. So I'm hoping that we get to meet in person soon, and hope that this sets precedence for that. And maybe someday I can come there and actually, do this.
Yes.
But then, yeah. So now that we're going to start, I think I'll probably give a brief primer as to how we're going to go about this
Yeah.
webinar. So I think the webinar is split into like three parts. I'll probably give an introduction as to why did I choose this topic to begin with. Why is it so important to refocus on strength in these times? And then maybe you can ask me a few questions, and then I'll flow into the presentation bit, which is the actual activity bit as to how to find strengths, what all resources can you use, where do you go and get those resources and things like that. And then we'll draw to a close, and probably then we can open it up to questions and discussions from the audience in that sense.
Sounds great.
Cool. So to begin with, when Bala reached out to me, what I understood was I'm talking to a core group of young people. People are studying and people are teaching such young people for that matter. I know that this is also live streaming on YouTube, so there might be a larger group that might be watching it. But then I guess we're all young at heart, so then this applies in that sense. So yeah, but when it comes to the core group, that's also why I thought I should keep it relevant to the group, and thus the youth part of the topic. And then I thought I should also keep it relevant to who I am as a person and what I do and what my experience and expertise in, which is mental health. So I guess that also goes out so the mental health part and the youth part came in. Now, when it comes to the real topic, which is the refocusing on strengths bit, that is something that I really thought about. These days, there's a lot of surge in mental health content on media and everywhere for that matter. When you go out there, there is mental health everywhere. I think there's a burst and there's a surge of content. And especially this week is Mental Health Week. In fact, if you didn't know, Mental Health Day was on October 10th, this Sunday, last Sunday. So in many organizations, they continue to celebrate this as Mental Health Week. So there is a lot of content actually. But the issue that I was noticing is that the content is largely on how to deal with stress, how to deal with your anxiety, how to deal with, say, work related issues, how to deal with your relationships. Are you fighting with your partner? What can you do? So it's all at the level of problems and what can we do to like fix it. And there isn't, I was like finding a dearth of content. I'm not saying there's no content on strength or well being, but there is relatively lesser content when it comes to focusing on strength. And but I feel that that is what will essentially promote mental health and prevent such mental health issues to begin with. Um, which is why I chose this topic. Um, and webinars can also get long and boring. I know that. But what I'm also trying to probably urge the participants is that there is something very fulfilling and enriching when you sit through webinars. You get a lot of things and you can take away a lot of things home. So I'll try my best to keep it useful and interesting. Um, and yeah, so that was something that I wanted to just start off with. So to begin with, why is mental health such a big issue right now? And why is it such a um, surge in content and in mental health institutions, mental health influencers? Everywhere you see in the webinar right now, also is mental health. I don't think 5 years ago we would have a webinar or any such seminars, like the amount of this, right? That's because there's an actual increase in mental health issues as per research and statistics. So I was just brushing up my data and stats and everything, and what I found from the UN's World Youth Report. So the United Nations releases a World Youth Report every year, and according to the UN, there are around 1.8 billion young people on this planet today, and 90% of them are actually in developing countries like ours in India. And so they form like the biggest crux of our population. And what they noticed is something very stark and interestingly. So they have this thing of, focusing on one theme every year. And this year, we are focusing on mental health of youth. So, I mean, if the UN, there is so much that's happening in the world, right? At this point in time, we had COVID and we are still recovering from it. We have so many other problems that are arising in our world, and yet they decided to choose something. So the actual topic is the role of inclusive social policies in improving young people's mental health and well-being.
Mhm.
So social policies in improving mental health and well-being in the young people, for that matter. So they are focusing on mental health and well-being. They're not focusing on problems. They're not focusing on famine, or they're not focusing on the pandemic. They're not focusing on problems, very real physical problems that we often used to focus on, which means the mental health issues are very problematic and they might impact the world a lot more. Probably it's very significant. Apparently, what they found in collaboration with the WHO and everything is that mental health issues have been like really on the rise, especially from the age rate of 10 to 19. Suicide is apparently the third leading cause of death in the age range of 10 to 19. So that age range is so sensitive, and yet suicide is the third leading cause. Depression is the fourth leading disorder that they have when it comes to illness and disorders and things like that. And again, addictions are increasing, substance use, technology addiction. So many things are on the rise that I guess better late than never. Everybody is realizing that the consequences are too much of not addressing adolescent mental health because they extend to adulthood also.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello, not able to hear anything.
Hello?
You're not able to hear?
Hello?
Yeah. They're not able to hear. 1 minute, it's him. Yeah.
Okay.
We are able to
No,
hear.
so far we haven't heard anything.
No, Francis, you have to check maybe. We all can hear.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, very clear actually. From only that person's problem.
Yeah, Francis, please check yours. We all can hear. Let's check here. Otherwise, please go to YouTube. Click the link. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I can continue.
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. So what I was saying is that probably too late than never, I guess we are all realizing how big this problem is. And
Father,
if
is
that
line is clear, Father? We cannot hear anything.
Francis, please, we are all very clear. If you can't, please go to YouTube. YouTube link also is sent. If you can't get it here, go to YouTube. It's very clear for all of us. Maybe
No,
the
Father,
problem
I cannot
is
hear
yours.
anything.
Yeah, please go to YouTube. Yeah.
Maybe problem with me or.
Yeah, problem is with your thing. Yeah. So. Okay, please, Lynn, go ahead.
Yeah. So we are trying to now learn to prevent. I think we have also figured out that prevention is more important now. And if we can prevent at the age which is of adolescence, maybe we can actually lead better, fulfilling lives in adulthood, for that matter. So some of the problems that I also see in my practice are also similar in that sense, which is I see a lot of, in fact, when a 13-year-old comes into my room, they're not as bothered as their academics as we normally think. It's their parents that's usually bothered about academics more than them. But what they are really bothered about is their emotional problems, like, that girl is not talking to me, this boy is not looking at me. Say, as you grow older, it becomes about your identity, like your body image, your sexual identity, your sexual orientation. And we also see a lot of addictions of late. Like, so it's not just substances, it's also phone addiction or app based addiction, technology addiction, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So these are the problems, and this was not the kind of problems that I saw in immense when I studied. So there is definitely a surge even in clinical practice. It's not just the reports that we are talking about. So yeah, so which is why I think it's important to focus on this, and maybe we can go ahead with some questions if you have.
But it started with you. Why does it occur in this particular age, Lynn?
So now, if you really look at developmentally, a human being's lifespan, for that matter, there are two critical periods of development. The first is when you're born, during the infancy, and that's very vulnerable and very important. The next phase is when you hit puberty, and that is the adolescent phase. So there is a biological vulnerability. This is the time that a lot of hormonal nervous system shifts, bodily transformation takes place, which means that they have a lot of things going internally, and there's so much chaos, and that is called biological vulnerability. Now, what we have to remember is, as long as we have existed on this planet, we've all had this biological vulnerability. So what we might have to then remember is that if there is vulnerability, then environment becomes a question. How good or how conducive is the environment, for that matter? And what we notice is that maybe the environment has changed a lot in the last many years. The youth nowadays have to deal with three different worlds in a way, which is, in the past, I think me, you, and all, we must have dealt only with our inner world and the outer world. There are only two worlds. But I think now we also have the virtual world. So there are three worlds that they're constantly dealing with. The virtual world is pretty much very real and as big as the real world. There's a subculture there. There are nuances of how to behave, how to connect, how to contact. So there, it's pretty much a subculture which is virtual. And the youth especially use a lot more of the virtual world than the real world in many ways, for that matter. So when they try to manage all these three parallelly, and if the environment, if that real world is not conducive for that development, what happens is there's too much chaos. There's chaos inside, there's chaos outside, there's chaos in the virtual world because there's too much information, there's a lot of content there, they don't know where to go, where to choose, they don't know who they're meeting, they're connecting to many random people. So it is just too much chaos. And maybe that's one, there's too much uncertainty. And when there is too much uncertainty and chaos out there, then the inner world is also going through turbulence. The outer world is also turbulent. So the mental health problems might be increasing because of that. That is what most studies are pointing at right now. It could be that because in the past there were other illnesses and pandemics and world wars and everything, for that matter. But if you really look at statistically, what research points out is that we didn't have as many mental health problems then in the youth, whereas we have more of it today. And it could be because of all this environmental changes, is what we are coming to understand now. I can't hear you.
Yeah, whether we like it or not, I think that's very important today. We cannot ignore the virtual world that we live in. So not only young people, and all of us have become part of it. Also, of course, young people have become very much part of it. So we elders also have to deal with such people who are, in a sense, becoming, sorry to use the negative word, addicted in certain times. But we don't necessarily, do you think, we don't necessarily take it as a negatively. Virtual world is equally important for us. We cannot do away with it.
Yes.
So probably we have to learn to cope with that virtual world and adapt and develop certain strategies and methods and tools, equip ourselves with tools to deal with this virtual world. And then life can be balanced.
Yes, perfect. So that's exactly what I was also like wondering. Like, the virtual world is not bad. It's not a question of what is good or what is bad, or what is right or what is wrong. Rather, it is more a question of how do we use these worlds. for our health and for our understanding and for our growth. So there is a lot of content, but then you can make choices. You can choose to, it is your phone at the end of the day. It is your laptop at the end of the day. You can always decide. You always have choice to use it the way you want it. And that is the line. But what you just said is also true, that it has a high risk, because there's so much. It's like such a huge world out there, right? So there's a lot of tendency for us to get addicted to it. So the word that you're using is right. I think most of us are addicted, in fact. We might think we're all saints. Only the people who are using drugs are addicted. But what we are noticing is that the same patterns repeat when we constantly check our phones, our mails, and we're so dependent on technology. I think around 1 week ago, Facebook and Instagram failed or something for a day. Right? It was in the news. Yeah, it was in the news. And I think people actually didn't know what to do on that day, which means that, yes, addiction is a probability that we are also dealing with because of this. And I guess what happens is that I think influencers and marketing companies are very aware of this. That as a human being, we have a vulnerability and we have a tendency to get addicted. So they're using it in their strategy to make us click in that sense. So what we have to be more responsible and aware is that when they are making money out of our emotions, we want to feel good, so we go and click. So if you want a burger, you go click. If you want a relationship, you go click, and you get it immediately. In the past, we have to work for it. So what we might have to decide is they are making money out of your emotion, and you are feeling good, but you have to probably do much more so that you can grow and you can upskill yourself. So what I would also probably then quick advise is to follow professionals then. There are so many influencers. So as a rule of thumb, try to follow professionals in their domain. So if it's mental health, follow professional in that domain. So they might also simplify content, like a reel which is short and all of that, because nobody has the attention span and time to spend 1 hour webinars and things like that. But what they would have thought about is all the research. They would have curated it. They would have summarized it for you. So that would be a healthier alternative to go and search for that kind of content. So yeah.
Yeah, but what you said, but sometimes I wonder this virtual world becomes is a really controlling freak, and it affects the relationships even. I mean, it's not about, as you rightly said, it's good or bad, even not about addiction. We have become so dependent. For example, earlier, some years ago, you write a letter, we wait for days together to receive a letter, and we had the patience. Now, you send a message, and if you do not get that message, or you looked at the message, but you did not reply, they do not even have the patience that probably they are busy with something else. Probably they will get back to me. We do not have, but immediately our tendency is to conclude, our tendency is to generalize, our tendency is to blame. So it, in a way, affects the relationships, even the close relationship. It's not about the addictions, it's not about the dependency, but the virtual world is pushing us into such a mindset that we are controlled. We are limiting our own our sense of communication, things like that. So I think there is a general awareness should grow into it as well, and learn to be patient and wait on. So there's a lot of joy in waiting. So, but we have no patience for these days. So a little thought that came to me. Yeah. So at least we, the participants who are part of this webinar, should slowly start creating that culture of. So if you don't get a message in a while, the whole world is not going to collapse, and the person will get back. So we need to give that little space and so on. So yeah, just a small thing, part of the virtual world.
I think you're absolutely on point. That's the second problem. So one is that need to immediately have what you want. The second is what you were pointing out. It transforms into relationships. It actually shows in relationships. So there is this alienation actually. So there is, you feel that there's a pseudo connection, which is actually alienation. So you think that you have like 500 or 800 friends on FB, like 500 followers on Instagram. You have so many friends, but on the very bad day, you don't actually have anybody. That's because that we have actually not taken the time to actually wait, talk, have a conversation with somebody. Instead we just resort to chats, or we want this immediate thing. So I guess, yeah, there is a lot of alienation also, and so a lot of children who come to therapy, even though they have all these friends,
Yeah.
they often say, I'm feeling very alone, I'm feeling very depressed. I cannot talk about this to my friends. Then, but I think that is what we used to do. We used to talk to our friends, and friends are when friends and family really become a very important line of support system, and they're also strength in that sense. So relationship is a huge source of strength, and the virtual world is actually limiting that for sure. Yeah.
So just to continue, Aqua, if you have to use one word to summarize, so what would be the biggest crisis that would be what we are going through now in terms of young people and all that?
I think we're already talking about it right now.
Okay, good.
Right? So I didn't want to use the word addiction. I was trying to be politically correct in that sense. But then if I'm using a phrase, I think the need for, immediate gratification. I want this right now, instant gratification, right? I remember when I wanted a book, I used to love reading books. If I wanted a book, I should wait for my birthday to get pocket money. Then I should wait for the book fair to come to the town after 6 months. But I'm waiting, and there is what you were just talking about. There's a sweetness to a wait that you cannot get from immediately, clicking and getting that book. And usually when you click and buy a book, it is in your bookshelf. You're not reading it also. But once you wait, you really know what the worth of that is for that matter. And yeah, I think it is that immediate need for self-gratification. I would probably, that is the biggest crisis. And if we can get over that, because if human beings have actually survived and thrived and evolved, it's because of their ability to wait. In the past, like evolutionary speaking, they had to wait for food. They had to wait till the environment is safe enough for them to get out, do things, right? Similarly, if we can learn to wait, we can achieve a lot of things. And that would be, I guess, something that we should now focus on.
Yeah. So you said our whole topic is refocusing on the strength. What according to you exactly is the strength, and how is it different from these days? We have even positive psychology evolving, and they talk about positive psychology. So what is the difference? What exactly is the strength, and how do you differentiate it from positive psychology or positive thinking? Let us put it positive thinking.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like a very important question I think we should cover, because when you hear the word strength, we often think that, it means that, she's strong, or like, it is positive psychology, like think positively, think good, things like that. But that is not strength. That's not how positive psychologists define strength to be.
Okay.
The terminology is simple, but the research behind that word is very complex. A strength, according to psychology, is the dispositional quality, which is a quality which is within you right from the very beginning. And if you understand that and practice it, you can continue honing it, and you can increase your quality of life. So that's the simple definition of strength. It was actually defined by the father of positive psychology. So there is actually a field called positive psychology, and the father of positive psychology is the one who started thinking about strength. So his name is Martin Seligman, and he is the one who actually first talked about strength to begin with. So what we have to also remember is we all have strengths and weaknesses, predisposed, which is, you can even call it protective factors and risk factors. So genetically, by birth, we have factors which protect us. Those can be called strengths. And factors which are risk factors, like you might be genetically predisposed to an illness, that will be a risk factor. That is our weakness. So whichever we develop, it's like the environment is what will help us develop it, right? So it's like a switch. So if you switch on the strength wala button and you're developing it, you will become more and more healthier. But if you're constantly bombarded by the environment, and if you're also constantly developing only a weakness, say, then unfortunately you're going to develop illness in that sense. So, but if you develop your strength, it also is shown to prevent illness. So that is also a good part about, honing strength. So which is why I guess strengths are also very important. I can't hear you.
Yeah. Thanks for that difference. So now we have to think. We all are waiting here. So we say you are asking us to refocus on strength. What do we get out of that by refocusing? What could be those benefits?
Yeah. So there are so many benefits when you refocus on strength. What research sources have 7 benefits in that sense. One is that increases your well-being, overall well-being, your physical, not just your mental is what I'm trying to say. Your physical, your workplace well-being, relational well-being, because you're constantly in a state wherein you are playing to your strengths. So your body, your identity is now a very secure one at this point in time. So that is one. So there is enhanced well-being in all domains. Then there is increased self-esteem and self-acceptance. So now that is also very important, right? Because it's almost about confidence and esteem is very much linked to your health and well-being. You're happier. So it's not just the immediate gratification that you're talking about. It is the overall happiness and satisfaction with life. So on a day, you will have multiple emotions. You will be angry, you can be sad, you can be anxious and things like that. But on an overall level, people who focus on strengths are far more happier than people who focus on their weaknesses. So that is something. Then you, like I said before, you have lesser mental illnesses. So when you increase your strengths, what happens is when you're focusing on strength, you have a lesser tendency to have depression or anxiety. It's almost like building your immunity in your body. If your immunity is better, you don't get illnesses, right? Like you don't get cold and things like that very often. Whereas if your immunity is low, you will get cold. Depression is considered the common cold of mental health. So as simple as that. So if your strengths are better, you will not be depressed. You will not have anxiety. Or even if you get that illness, you will recover fast. So that is the other thing. Then it leads to positive work experiences. Employees are happy, employers are happy, performance improves in companies, economy improves. So it has a larger social benefit in that sense. Then what we notice is school and college kids are normally, when we are taught in education, we can have a strength perspective. So when you bring strength perspective to education, they grow up happier in school. So when we did a study on school kids, when are you happy across the day? They are most unhappy when they went to school. That's so sad, right? Like when you're going to school, you're meeting so many other friends of yours, you should be happy, which means the school is focusing on the wrong things in many ways. But when they started focusing on strengths and developing their child's unique abilities, these children were happier, they were healthier, and they moved on to choose careers which were far more suitable to their strengths. And the last thing is what they found is they become more efficient at problem solving. So I'm not talking about math problems. I'm talking about real life problems in that sense. Problems like if, for example, the power went right now, and then our webinar is getting stuck. I can get anxious. You can get anxious. But then, if we are really focused on our strengths, we can be calm and we can work around it. I give you a very simple example, but the same thing applies to relationships and to workplaces. Everywhere, people who are focused on strengths, they solve problems, all kinds of problems, much better than people who don't. So simply put, I would say that if you start, identifying your strengths as early as you can practice. You can also choose your right career path, by the by, if you know your strengths. So for example, if you're an effective communicator, maybe you will do good as a anchorer, news anchorer, or a journalist or a psychologist, depending on the other strengths also for that matter. So we can use strengths to in career counseling itself in that sense. And logically, another thing that also comes up is if you really hone on our strengths, we know that this is benefiting it consciously, right? So we will also very naturally, actively develop them. And then so we are more conscious and more aware in that sense. So I guess these are the few benefits of refocusing on strength.
Could you just enumerate those benefits just for the benefit of everybody to just 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah.
Okay. 1, enhanced well-being. Overall well-being is increased.
Right.
2, self-acceptance and self-esteem improves.
Okay.
3, you are happier. There is greater happiness across. It's not just fluctuates based on your moods. The mood is different. Happiness is very different. So you're more peaceful and happy. That is 3. 4, your mental health improves. Your mental illness comes down. Your tendency to fall ill comes down.
Okay.
5, it improves work experiences, all your work and career experiences. 6, it improves children's uh, engagement at schools and colleges, and eventually they choose the right career in the future, and thus they grow up to be healthy adults. And 7, all of us would become more efficient at problem solving, and thus we do better in life in every domain for that matter.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Lynn. Now, more or less, we know at least what is strength and what are the issues that we face, and we have tried to identify. Now, if we were to, after end of the session and in the days to come, we want to focus, how can we refocus? And let's say, can we do something with our own selves on a daily basis? Can we practice something? So if you could help us with something to move forward and take home with something.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start sharing my presentation because then I can show.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we can see. Yes. Excellent.
You can see it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I'm just trying to remind you all, if you're focusing on your weakness, your performance decreases by minus 26.8%. So this is based on a study done on 19,000 employees across the world, across different organizations. What they notice is when their employers are focusing on, you remember you have your appraisals and feedbacks, right? So then they'll see you can improve on this, you can improve on communication, things like that. That's a weakness-based approach actually. And when you do that, what they notice in next year, their performance decreased. So what they tried is the next year, they tried focusing on strengths and they saw how it influences performance. And what they found is that if you focus on strengths, so if you give feedback, constructive feedback, your performance is improving by 36.4%. So that is the extent to which focusing on strengths can improve your life. Now I'll stick to what I'm trying to say is, if you can find out who you are truly, there's an upside to it. It's a very positive thing. You can actually improve everything in every area of your life. So there are things that professionals can help you with. So going to a professional is obviously something that you should consider if you really want to get in depth. And there are things that you can do yourself for that matter. So I'll just cover soon really fast as to what professionals can help just in case. So they can do an assessment of your strengths. So based on questionnaires, you can test character strengths, talent-based strengths, and combination strengths. Now, character strengths are innate, like I said a little while before. Like when you're born itself, you have certain strengths which are part of your personality. Talent strengths are skill-based strengths. So character strength could be something like honesty. Like, oh, this person is a honest person, and that is a strength. Whereas talent would be communication skills or writing skills. So it's mostly skill-based. And a combination is like competency, basically. So how competent are you, which is based on a combination of talent and character. So if you're an honest person and you can speak well, maybe you can become a good psychotherapist or something like that. So that is the way that, you talk about character strength, talent-based strength, and combination strength. So there are various tests. So these are a few strengths. These are all a few character strengths: creativity, curiosity, perspective, bravery. So I'll give you a sample. So there is this test. So like I said, all these resources are freely available on my website, www.lingeorgie.com. You just have to go and check out the media and resources and you will get this. So you don't have to worry about copying all of this right now. You can just see and understand what this is first, and then you can choose which you want to pursue. So I tried checking one test recently. This is the VIA character strengths profile. So this is based on character strength. So this is the most famous test that's out there. It is freely available online. This was constructed by Seligman, the father of strengths and positive psychology and everything. So if you notice, my most strongest strength is honesty. Then spirituality, then perspective, then creativity, then love of learning. So when I know this, I can use this now to my advantage, is what I'm trying to say. Now, one thing I want all of you to remember is that honesty is not the way we define it in our daily life. Honesty, you might have to go and decide, read what they are defining it, and that is what they mean by honesty, and that is your strength. So what they are saying, for example, is honesty means courage, the ability to seek the truth and be genuine and act in a sincere way, and take responsibility for one's feeling and action. That is the definition according to this test. So they're saying that my highest strength is honesty. Now the other strength test that you can check is your high-fi. So high-fi test, again, I've shared the link on my website. You don't have to worry. And again, so this is based on the combination strength, so character plus talent. So according to this, my 5 biggest high-fi is I'm a believer, I'm a coach, I'm a philomath. A philomath is similar to love of learning. When you really love learning and things like that, that the word conveys philomath. I'm an empathizer, I'm a deliverer. So simply put, if you look at the believer, coach, empathizer itself, you can already see that I'm a psychologist. Maybe I chose a profession which is actually attuned to my strengths. I did it naturally. I didn't do these tests in that sense, but now I'm doing it. I'm feeling like, oh, there's a match kind of a thing. So these are 2 tests that you can check out, and I've shared the link on my website. The next one is that if you are working, 1 second, it's not. If you're working, it's good to identify leadership styles. So this is another test that you can also check. And based on this test, you will get which kind of a leader are you. And if you look on the right side, that is my result. And my highest points is for an experienced guide. So I guess I'm in the right profession. So I don't have to worry. So now you have to go back and check which one are you. And maybe you can, it does not matter which profession or career you've chosen now. You can still use these particular skills and strengths to your advantage in your current career for that matter. So you don't have to worry. But I'm just saying, maybe you might have already chosen the right career. Now, the other thing that you professionals can do is therapy and counseling. So if you notice that this is a webinar, I'm trying to give you a general, broad framework, right? But if you come to me personally, one-on-one, then I will focus exclusively on your unique strengths. And I can make it more holistic and integrate it with your weakness, with your life, with your job, with your relationships. So in that sense, be open to therapy and counseling, just in case. Therapy is not just when you have a problem, is what I'm trying to say. You can go to therapy and counseling even when you want to grow. And so consider, and maybe a therapist can help you find your strengths along with this assessment. Now, the other ways to recognize your strengths, the thing that all of you have been waiting for, like probably what you can do at home. So these are a few exercises. If we have time, we will do one of them, but I'll just now brush to it so that you have an idea. And I have uploaded the PDFs on my website. So you just have to go download the PDF, take a printout, and then you just fill the form, and then you can do it all by yourself also. But in order to understand how to do it, I'll just take you through it. The first exercise is best possible self-exercise. If you are a psychologist watching this, it's using a principle of narrative therapy, basically storytelling. Storytelling is very powerful. So what you just have to do is, when you download the PDF, right, take a pen, take the PDF along with you, set apart 15 minutes in your day, and imagine your life in your future in great detail. What is the best possible life that you can imagine? Consider all areas of your life, your career, academics, relationships, hobbies, health, anything for that matter, everything in fact. What would happen in these areas of your life in the best possible future? So what you have to remember, and then if you're downloading the PDF, what you will notice is it's in order. So you don't have to worry about the steps there because it's going in the stepwise order. But the tips are only focus on your future. Don't focus on your past. So because if you notice, we all have a tendency to focus on our past and what is wrong in our life. So don't focus there. Try to remain your focus on the future. Make it very specific. So go into detail. Oh, in 2021, I'm going to do this by March, by September, and things like that. So make it very specific, make it very detailed. Also imagine that you've worked very hard and succeeded and accomplished your life goals. The reason that you have to imagine that you've worked hard is because then it becomes realistic. So it's not like I set a goal, my best possible self is I become the president of the United States. I can't become the president of the United States. But if I imagine my best possible self is that of the vision that Bala, you just introduced me with, which is I want to create a sustainable, affordable, and accessible care for mental health in India. That I think, even though right now it is a little too much for me, but it's still achievable. And I can, do this very exercise to reach my goals. Maybe not in 5 years, but maybe in 10 years. And I have to work hard for it, and that is realistic. The next one is imagine it, visualize it, imagine as if it's actually happening. The more you imagine, what happens is your brain fires, your neurons are firing, and the brain cannot distinguish between the virtual, unreal, and the real. For the brain, everything is the same. So the better imagination, the better your chances of achieving this particular state. Now, what you should do is be sure to write about the character strengths that you observe in this image. So, in that final goal that you're trying to achieve. So, if I want to be a good psychotherapist in the future, I should be honing on the strengths of communication. I should be owning on the strengths of honesty. I should be very real and authentic with my clients. If I'm lying to my clients, if I'm lying to myself in my life, I don't think I can be a good therapist. So similarly, try to find which strength is important. So in fact, before you do this exercise, go and do the free test online, like I said, and then maybe that will help you. So forget grammar and spelling. This is not your exam. It's just your own test. Yeah. So don't worry about all that. Yeah. So try to imagine that and try to implement your strengths from this day on to achieve that particular goal. So this is the first exercise. I hope I'm clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I'll go to the next one then. So this is very interesting. This is something called look out for exceptions, find exceptions. So now in life, I mentioned a little while ago that we all look out for problems. Oh, I did something wrong yesterday. Now I could have done it better. I fought with my wife. I fought with my husband. I could have done this homework better. I could have done that exam better. But we also have exceptions in our life. There are times in life when the problem didn't occur because we did something right. So you have to go back and think about those instances where in your life problems could have occurred but did not, or less severe. For example, maybe I had a very exhausting day at work and I'm little irritable. And I'm going home. Usually I'll end up fighting with my mother. That is the problem, right? But this day, I didn't fight with my mother. In fact, I was calm. I went and had a nice tea first. I didn't talk to her first. I calmed down first. And then we had a talk and we didn't fight. Why did that happen? That is exceptional, right? So usually you have a problem, but in this situation, you didn't fight. You didn't get angry. You're able to manage everything much better. That is because I took a break. I didn't immediately rush into and start talking. And then because I was so tired, instead, I took care of my health first. I took care of my tiredness first. And I became calm. And then I talked to my mother. Now, what would happen is that I had a better conversation. So this is an exception. So now I realize I have the strength to stay calm after work. And I can probably, similarly in exams also for that matter. So in exams, the exams that you would have done better are the exams you would have probably been calm in the morning or you would have not studied last minute. Things like that. So when you start observing, hey, that is an exception. I usually don't behave like that. What did I do right in that time? So that is the kind of questions that you should ask. Notice I've not asked any why questions. Don't ask why did I not. Again, you are blaming or judging yourself. Ask what did I do differently? When did that happen? So things like that. So again, there's a questionnaire there, the PDF there. You can download it. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you have doubts, feel free to mail me. Feel free to comment on the YouTube thread maybe. I'll try to answer as much as I can. Exercise is a reflected best self portrait. Now, this is similar to the first one, but only different in the sense that here other people are doing it for you. The first one, you are doing it, right? Here, what you have to do is you have to list 10 people. If you don't have 10 people, now you'll know you'll know how many friends you have actually when you try to do this exercise. But list 10 people or 5 people from different parts of your life. So maybe from work, from family, your friends, your school friends, etc., etc. Ask them, when was I at my best? And collect their responses. So they will remember. Hey, Lynn, Bala, you just mentioned at the very beginning. You've observed me. I didn't know that. Right? And I would have always, maybe I would have thought I'm emotional, but you are telling me, no, I'm sensitive. And that is what you can get from this when other people observe you, they're far more objective. Sometimes you can be more critical of yourself. So look for patterns in their responses after you've collected the responses, and then you compose your self-portrait. Oh, these are my strengths. I didn't notice it. Now I can use it to my advantage. I can redesign my life around this. I'm a sensitive person, which means I can do something around psychology. For example, is that clear, Bala?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yes. The fourth one, I think many MBA people would have done this, or people who are starting companies or entrepreneurs usually do this at the very beginning, but you can also do it for yourself, is what I'm trying to say. This is a quadrant. It's called SWOT analysis. SWOT is the acronym. It's a short form based for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, basically. So you have the quadrant. The strengths and weaknesses are your internal world, and opportunities and threats are your external world. So if you try answering these questions, I'm just going to probably say 2 questions from each. Strength, what do you do well? What do you have that others don't, for example? What do others see your strength? So if you notice, we have done all this now in the previous activities. Weakness, what are those tasks that you avoid frequently? So I am not good at technology, for example. So I tend to keep avoiding. Even with Bala, I kept asking what is this Microsoft Teams, and I don't know how to use this and things like that. So this is a task I avoid frequently. This could be my weakness. Opportunities, what opportunities are open to you? This was an opportunity, right? When Bala called me, it was an opportunity. I could use this. What are the threats? What are the roadblocks in your life? Corona is a roadblock, for example, for most of us, right? We couldn't do many things that we wanted to in the last 2 years. So look out for all this. And when you analyze this, you will also figure out how to play your strengths and your weaknesses to the advantage of the external world. So this is like the fourth exercise. Now, if all those exercises are too much and too big for you to do, this is the simplest exercise. Make strength in everyday practice. Anytime during the day, right now, you can ask this question. What task or action am I performing? So right now, all of you are watching this webinar. How do I feel? What am I thinking? Are you feeling bored? Are you feeling excited? Are you feeling, hey, let me go and check out a website and find those PDFs right now and start doing it? Do I feel motivated, engaged, or energized? If yes, what strength am I using? So if you are feeling good, then the strength that you're using, for example, is that you're patient. You're patiently listening to this webinar, for that matter. And so you have that strength to listen, to be patient, to be attentive to a long webinar. So that is a strength. Now, at the end of the day, what you can do is for 5 minutes, maybe less than that actually, just ask yourself, when did I feel most energized today? So across the day, Bala, when did you feel energized most today?
Before this, as I was trying to get on to the webinars, I was feeling very energized, and I still continue. Yeah. I was really hoping for it, and I was looking forward to it. Yeah.
Forward to it. So what that shows is that maybe you really loved, initiating and conducting such things, and building, this wellness or awareness or engaging with the youth and things like that. So when was I performing at my best? What was I doing at that time? What strengths was I using? So Bala is also using a lot of strengths right now because he had to organize all this. He had to contact me, figure out what can work, what days can work. So he's good at communicating, coordinating, organizing, and he feels excited doing all of this. But if he reflected that today, he now understands what his strengths were and he can use it to his advantage. Similarly, tonight at least, try to go back and do this exercise. At least tonight. So then you'll understand how important, how it changes your entire mood and perspective in that sense, for that matter. So this is like I think this is the last exercise. So yeah. So how do you now implement all of this? How do you redesign your life? So I gave you a lot of, strengths and exercises and tests, and this is something that you can use. But how do you redesign them? Simple plan that I would suggest is pick one questionnaire that I've suggested. Don't try everything. Just pick one. Then you'll have some knowledge of your strengths, which will help you to reorient. Then the second thing that you can do, pick one item from the DIY. Do it yourself. The second bit, right? Which I was giving you those 5 exercises. Go back to my website, download those PDFs, just pick one of them. Don't try to do everything. Sometimes we get very excited and we want to do everything. So what I'm trying to say is just pick one. It becomes simple and easier to do it. Set aside 50 minutes every day, just 15 minutes, to reflect on the strength that you exhibited that day. Make it a practice. So every day, if you practice, what happens is it becomes a part of your psyche. It becomes very natural and second skin to you. So I guess this is the simplest way to redesign your life around strength. So yeah, so that's something that I thought would help you all. Like I mentioned before, all the resources are there on the website, so you can just go and download. You don't have to worry about where can I get them.
Wonderful. I think we have covered quite a bit, and we have in a short span of time, we have defined for ourselves, and we have identified what are the areas and issues that need attention, and we have clarified for ourselves what strength is really, and we also have seen for ourselves how we can help. Self-help is the best help, they say. So we all cannot go to Lynn, but we can help ourselves and avoid that tedious process. Yes, thank you very much, Lynn. So I think we have come more or less to the end of it. If we have any questions to clarify or to complement and supplement, you're welcome. I have one question here, Lynn, from Muthu Saravanan. Due to this recent pandemic, there is new virtual world came up in the world of sales and business. So where winning becomes winning a business without even meeting the other party has become a great challenge. So you have to convince them and all this. So what is your advice? So.
So yeah, I guess so. I think if you're connecting it back, so this question is a little tricky in the sense that he's talking about a challenge right now, and we were talking about strength. So I would like to connect it to our topic in that sense and give an answer. So if you are having businesses and you're not able to meet these people, and is there other ways of connecting to them? How can you use? So we had that conversation a little in the beginning also. How can you use the virtual world to your advantage? Can you do other forms of connection? So, for example, a lot of us, I've reconnected a lot back to my school friends. I was telling you that the other day also, right? And we tend to get together every weekend, and sometimes do virtual coffee and tea and things like that. So, what I'm also trying to hint to Muthu here is that invest in connecting in the virtual world to these teams, for that matter, the other parties. So they might not, not have official meetings, but invest in private meetings and build on connection. And when you connect, I think businesses do better when the other person knows you personally also. Then they learn to trust you and they know that, hey, you will deliver, you're responsible and things like that. So in fact, instead of worrying about that one meeting that didn't work out, try to develop a relationship is what I'm trying to say. An actual relationship using the virtual world to your advantage. And maybe that is something that can really work. I think I've networked a lot more in the pandemic than before. And that's helping me right now. So I guess that could be one simple advice that I would probably give.
Yeah.
Really very enlightening session, Lynn. I really appreciate the way you are very relaxed. That's very important. The way that shows you are very passionate about what you're talking about. And being in HR background for the past 20 years, I'm in Kuwait for the past 20 years. I thank Father and also thanking you for having organized. You covered all the various topics, and in HR, this appraisal systems, they are scrapping the appraisal systems nowadays. The Fortune 500 companies like Adobe also they scrapped. Now they are focusing on a strength finder, for the executives to get Gallup strength study, strength finder, and then they're focusing only on strengths. That is very important now. So the shift is happening now in the corporate side, and also And also you covered, very well about the new age, what's happening, the stress. And if you look at our history, we are all hunters once upon a time, farming, gathering, hunting. This also gives our brain dopamine, and also we get adrenaline, so when we have close connections with others, the face to face, that also give a kind of oxytocin and all that, now that is
Yes.
missing nowadays. So what
Yes,
is the strategy, what are the solutions we can give for us to trick our mind?
Trick my mind.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure who I'm talking to right now, but I'm
Yeah,
really glad.
you're talking to Francis Jairaj.
Okay.
Francis,
Thank you, Francis, for that feedback and for being so kind. And thank you for that information also. That I've been also hearing that a lot of companies have been shifting to. I didn't know that they were removing appraisals, but then I heard that they were shifting to strength using Strengths Finder, the Gallup Strengths Finder. So that is good and that's really healthy in that sense. Now, when it comes to is there a way that we can trick our mind to increase our oxytocin? And I think the same answer applies that I gave to Muthu a little while ago. Because if we are limited by the pandemic, then we are limited to meet people face to face. We have to be aware that there's a realistic threat out there. We can't really break that right now. But then um, create, other ways of meeting people in that sense. And you don't have to literally physically meet people, is what I'm trying to say. And if you're meeting, then try to meet in safe, spaces and things like that. um, Other ways of increasing oxytocin and feel good hormone, dopamine, and things like that is to actually get physically active. So, if you are working out every single day, if you are investing in your physical health care, naturally the brain starts producing these hormones. So, that is the other thing. So, invest in connections and online for that matter, and start having parties and watch groups and things like that online. Schedule it and ensure that all of you are meeting. But the other way, if you really want to do it, is to increase your physical activity. The simplest way to increase dopamine and oxytocin and things like that is to actually work out. And it actually also has an added benefit of improving your physical health. So I think it's a win-win in that sense. So this is what is coming to my mind right now.
Good.
You're a
Thank you.
brilliant answer, really. Because we have WhatsApp group called, walkers. We all walk, and then we update our running. We take a screenshot
Yeah.
of our kilometer, and then when I, what I get the kick out of it, when I update myself. When I finish I wanted to finish my run in order to update. So when I
Yes.
update that, then I get some kind of kind of happiness or some kind of
So you
fulfillment.
have actually
That's
combined the best of both worlds now in doing that. You have used that click culture plus, you're walking
Walking
and
down.
you're really improving your, hormones. So you're doing the right thing.
Excellent. Thank you, Francis, and thank you, Lynn, for that. And one more question, Lynn. Last two or three questions. Many have these days mood swings, and very often they have. And what are the causes and how to deal with them?
So it's quite a general question. So
Yeah,
as
yeah,
a
yeah.
psychologist, sometimes I want more specificity, but then I'll try to answer it as much as I can. The mood swings. So many people are having mood swings that it could be because of the pandemic itself, as simple as that. Because we are withdrawn from what Francis was talking about, right? We are, and even Muthu was pointing out, we are not able to meet people. And our brains are wired to meet people. Our brains were actually, I'm an introvert. I thought, oh my God, pandemic, good. It's the best thing for me. No. In fact, even my mood dipped after some time. So imagine for extroverts and things like that. So we need people to feel good. We need people to heal and to connect, and so that we can get better. So it could be a side effect of the pandemic itself that mood swings are happening. Um, if it's not, it could be because of the pandemic. I think all of us have also gotten very unhealthy physically. And if you're getting unhealthy physically, which is you're not working out, I think in the past at least you're going to work and you're walking, you're staying fit. Right now there's no movement, and people are very stagnant, and they're staying at homes and working at homes. They're in their pajamas. They're not doing like anything in that sense. They're only sitting in front of their laptops and working, which is cultivating a very bad physical lifestyle in that sense. Now, when you're gaining weight or when you are not working out, what happens is that these hormones that I was talking about a little earlier plummets. When they come down, you can also have mood swings. And so the only way that you can work around this is to ensure the previous suggestions in that sense. But if you think that your mood swings are becoming severe, then it might be important that you consult a professional immediately, because maybe you might also be going through something significant which you are not very aware of at this point in time. Best that you go to a professional and they can probably help you with correctly finding out what exactly is going wrong and why are you developing mood swings suddenly. So consider going to a psychologist if none of this works.
And also probably one of the main reasons the topic itself is the answer, that we tend to more focus on our weaknesses rather than the counting on the blessings and the strengths that we have. So probably if we nurture and develop that mindset, we begin to see hope. We begin to see new perspective. We begin to see that though I'm not so bad, things can improve. So that will, in a very practical sense. But as you rightly said,
I think, well, from what you're sharing, one more thing that popped in my head was we do not have any structure to our day also nowadays.
Yeah.
We do whatever we want, whenever we want, and things like that. And I think that also, in that sense, the idle mind is a devil's workshop. That kind of a situation happens. As you were saying, right? We end up focusing on negatives. But suddenly I was like, yeah, because we have time to think about our negatives. We work when we want to. So I think to bring in some structure and stability to your day can also help.
It does, definitely. Sometimes you don't do anything and you just go on binge watching, and you finish up after watching, you say, oh, what the heck, what did I do whole day? I wasted, I don't know, but still I watched the whole day something, but I'm not still relaxed. Rather,
I will definitely have mood swings.
Mood swings for that. So things like that. Okay, thanks. But a very generic question they are asking on VS wonderful webinar: how to solve family problems and life depression, because I'm not able to settle in life and many years life is not moving forward. How to avoid this mental feeling and the mental stress?
Yeah. So to whoever is asking this question, again, I think you figured out it's quite a broad question in that sense. We all have family problems. I don't think any of us on this planet. But if you're talking about this and if you're asking this question, which means that there is significant family problems, right? If it's not normal. That's the reason that you're asking this question right now. And if you're not satisfied with life and there's something that's bothering you with life, it sounds like you might be actually going through some kind of a depressive episode in that sense. So it might be really good. Don't think about, so a little while ago, at least in the beginning of the webinar, we were talking about don't go for quick fixes. Instead, try to be patient and, take some time to work through this. And I would suggest therapy. If you're having family problems or individual problems, you can start with individual therapy if your family is not willing. But then your therapist will help you and guide you through the process as to how to, depending on your unique family problems, how can you solve it? Why are you so dissatisfied with life? And how can you, again, refocusing on strength, which is our topic. So if you want to do something simple and right now, then you should follow what we discussed in the webinar. But if you want something long term, I would really suggest consider therapy. Family therapy is also available and individual therapy also. Both can really work. Depending on whether your family is willing, you can consider either.
Yeah, rightly said. And also why probably one of the reasons the person, if that person or somebody else, if they're not settling in life, probably they're looking for the one particular type of job or one way of thinking. I have to do only this, otherwise my life is not good. So probably count on the strengths that they have, and if not this job, something else. So if I become teacher, only then my life is meaningful. Only then my life is good. Probably not. You're not able to get that teacher's job. Something else you might have to look into. Start discovering the strengths that you have and see. When you begin to work on that, I mean, I'm just assuming things here. We don't know the more details about the client, and we are just trying to see what are the other areas that they have to look into. Yeah, thank you. We have Amar. You raised a hand. You have a question to ask, please.
Uh, uh, Namaste, little sister.
Uh-huh.
Leon. I have
Namaste.
exposure. I have exposure 9 years in counseling in a psychiatry nursing home, but I am not satisfied with my performance because
Mm,
I am not able to solve sometimes. So I want to
mm,
improve. That's why I want
mm.
to do. Have some confusion whether to do cognitive neuropsychology or clinical psychology.
Okay. And then where are you working exactly right now? What area do you want to work in?
I am working in Vijayawada, Ayodhya, Manasa Psychiatric Nursing Home in counseling.
Okay. And you want to
Now,
continue working in that setup?
yes, no. If I have to do some courses, I have to discontinue and join
Yeah, but
some
what I'm
college.
trying to understand is what kind of people or problems do you want to work with? Depending on that will be the course that you should take.
I want to work with younger children.
Young children, okay.
It doesn't.
But then I didn't hear child psychology.
Okay.
So can you see what I'm trying to say? So if you, in fact, I think you should go and try doing those things, questionnaires, the first two that I suggested. So try doing that, and maybe you'll understand what career should you actually, what even in psychology, which area should you focus. If you like working with children, then ideally you should be doing a course in child psychology,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
It's
sister.
not clinical or cognitive. They sound nice on a resume, but then
Okay.
we will not be happy even after doing that course. So then what's the point?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as Lynn is mentioning, Amma, first of all, these days the specialization is so huge. So you want to work with young adults, maybe you have to do teen psychology or adult youth psychology. If you are interested in dealing with families, maybe family therapy is something that you need to
Yeah.
focus on because you're already having some background in psychology. You want to specialize into something, then you need to see to who do I work for? Who do I
Yeah.
want to help? So ask that fundamental question, and not only desire, but you also have to see what are my strengths. Do I have
Yeah.
the skills and the strengths to go into that direction? So otherwise, you might be doing, and you end up again, you'll have the dissatisfaction that I'm not able to perform well.
Yeah.
So if I'm interested in that, or I want to help somebody with addictions, so you might have to do something else. So there are
Yeah.
different specializations available these days. So
Yeah.
probably you have to go through those series of questions, or you know how to assess your own strengths now by now as a basic psychology that you have. So
Yeah.
is that okay? Yeah.
Actually, I started my career as in psychology with Navajivan children, again in Narayana,
Yeah.
again in in hospital also.
Yeah.
If children comes, they use it. Our hospital use it to send to me. I'm
Yeah.
known to do children counseling for children.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
So that is some area that you can focus on and look for some courses
Ah,
into that
child
area.
psychology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
child
Psychology.
Yeah.
psychology.
Child
And
psychology.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? A last question to be taken?
Further, since nobody's talking, so I'm just taking up. You just gave a piece of both of you told that we need to tap into our strength. Play to our strength. That is your first solution. And also you are asked that gentleman to find his purpose. Where he is passionate about, and then he's selling child psychology maybe. And then there is one more element I want to bring a highlight, and I need your insight. So we need to look at taking the willing to experiment. Avoiding the risk by
Hmm.
doing the monotony and doing the routine work, and we have to sometimes shake things up. So that we will get excitement by experimenting. Please, what is wrong in it?
So there is a difference between experimenting and exploring. So depending on that line is how wrong or right it becomes. So if you're experimenting, what happens is you tend to keep, there is that, the immediate gratification that we were talking about a little earlier. You keep wanting that hype. You want to feel really good and excited all the time. And those are the kind of people who end up experimenting a lot. Whereas people who are explorers, so if you tweak it down a little bit, they know how much to experiment. So they will just, probably, so if you want to travel, so they are not going to take too many risks for that matter, but they will still travel. Whereas an experimenting person ends up, okay, today, right now, I want to go, even if it's COVID, I don't care. I won't wear my mask and I will just go away. And that is experimenting. So as long as you know the spectrum, it is really good that you're exploring. And but what I'm trying to say is don't take risks. So if you're completely aware, then you're exploring. If you're not aware, then you might be experimenting and then you might land in all this trouble. And you might develop certain other problems in that sense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you actually know you distinguished this a new insight today I learned, because when I did my own profiling, I am like a creator, innovator, and developer and explorer. But now we are saying exploring is different and experimenting is different. It's a new insight I learned from you right now.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
Thank
See,
you so much.
your profile is also saying explorer. You're not saying experimenting. So
yeah,
that's really good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So the feedback form is available on the YouTube. So kindly go to the YouTube link. It's there in all your messages. Click on that and fill in that form. And within 30 minutes, you should be able to do that. And then you'll be getting a certificate. There are so many people who just register for the sake of certificate and want to feel very happy about it. Probably they want to be having loads of certificates and say, I have so many certificates anyway. So thank you once again, Lynn, for the wonderful, very smooth going and without any difficulties and without any major heavy concepts. But in a very conversational style and question answers, we're able to understand each other and put forward the so many questions and the enigmas that we go through in our daily life. So we all are together in this life, helping each other, trying to support each other, encourage each other, empower each other, so that we live a very happy and content and meaningful life with all our ups and downs. So once again, my dear participants, thank you for taking your precious time out this evening. This is one of the strengths. You can say to yourself, yes, I want to help myself. I want to learn more. I want to be better. So this is one of the beautiful strengths that we have. So continue to hop on the strengths that we have and keep moving forward. So next week, we shall have another wonderful lady helping us with discover yourself. So maybe that is something that we can continue in the same way. Continue that. So we have seen how do I focus on the strengths, and then how do I discover what all that I have, unearthing the strengths that we have. So that is a topic that we have. And please, it doesn't matter for me and for Lynn how many people attend this, but our only desire and warmest wish is that many people get benefit out of this. We take pains in organizing this. So our appeal is try to reach out to as many people as possible. And there are many people not motivated. Probably you can just cajole them and encourage them and say, hey, why don't you make use of this? We waste a lot of time for many things, and it's worth spending some time for ourselves and investing in ourselves. So it is not charged for you. These sessions could be very expensive if you have to go, and we don't need to pay any rupee, just we need to give our time. So please help yourselves and encourage many people and get benefits out of it. So we, as all of us participants, Lynn, wish you all the very best, and we send all our positive vibrations, blessings, and prayers and good wishes for you. May you continue to work in this mission of providing sustainable, affordable, and accessible healthcare to many, many more people in this country. Okay, God bless you.
So much. Bless you too. Bye.
Bye for now, all of you. Bye-bye. Have a lovely evening and wish you happy Dasra holidays.
Thank you, Lynn, for the wonderful session. And also your website is deliverables. Now, what are the areas you are focusing on? What help we can get from you? Things like that. Yeah.
Right now, it's actually on my website.
But better for you, better
Just
for us
say
also.
what are the things that you do if somebody wants to reach you there. What are the
So I do individual therapy. I do couples therapy. I also give supervision to therapists. So I'm training therapists also right now. So these are the three things that I'm primarily doing at this point in time. I do courses also for therapists.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
We sign off. Thank you very much.